What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Debates with Nav on the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Pranav Sriraman, and today I'm joined by a special guest, Will Locklin. Will, how are you doing?
What's up? What's up? Good to be here. How we doing?
So, good. So today we're going to address an NFL executive who talked about running backs, and he said Ezekiel Elliott is not a top 10 running back in the league because he lost a lot of strength. What do you necessarily take from that?
My first reaction to that is, from what I've learned over, there's a poll about the quarterbacks as well, and Patrick Mahomes is at 4. Lamar Jackson was near at the bottom end of the top 10. I mean, there's obviously a clear bias when it comes to these executives because they work for a team. So, I mean, clearly the executive who put Zeke at 11 is probably an executive that works for either the Redskins, the Eagles, or the Giants, because Zeke just absolutely tears those teams apart when he's given the ball, of course, which the Cowboys struggle doing.
To me, Zeke is top 3 for me, but he's definitely in the top 4.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And yeah,
Exactly.
There's going to be bias among team general managers to root for their guy and kind of hype up their guy in a sense. So they're going to knock another, in a sense, rival down to just uplift their guy. But to me, Zeke has to be somewhere in the top 5. He's been durable. He's been consistent. And although last year was kind of a step back for Zeke because of him holding out his contract, not getting a full training camp, he still rushed for over 1,000 yards and had a productive season.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you can consider it like a down year for Zeke, and he still was a top 5 rusher. He was still dominant given the ball. And I don't think, his best season you could say was his rookie season. But I don't think the fact that he's maybe lost a little bit is because of him. I think some of it can be due to coaching, especially down the stretch, relying more on Dak Prescott to carry the Cowboys to victories than Zeke. Yeah. Some of it can be due to health, which obviously you have to take that into consideration. And some of it can be due to the fact that the Cowboys' offensive line is just not as good as they were a couple years ago. They've taken a step down. They were best line.
Jason Garrett, I watched almost every snap of the Cowboys last season. Jason Garrett rarely used Zeke when it mattered most. In that Eagles game. Yeah. When it mattered most, Jason Garrett very poorly utilized Ezekiel Elliott.
Down the stretch, they relied on Dak Prescott. And, I mean, you saw the results, 8-8. And when they relied on Zeke a couple years, the better line, 13-3. But, I mean, moving in, we're going to share our top 5 running backs. I'll go first. So my top 5 is Christian McCaffrey at 1, Saquon at 2. I think it's 1 and 2, 1A, 1B, whatever you want. I'm not going to argue if you have Saquon number 1. Yeah. Just to be honest, they're neck and neck. Mm-hmm. They're both the best all-purpose backs. So versatile in their ability. And, I mean, versatility in both what you can do on the field and how you can do it. Their style of running is it's the most important thing for running back, and they excel in both those areas.
And they're very explosive.
Oh, yeah. 100%. At number 3, I have Ezekiel Elliott. You mentioned top 3. I agree. I have him at number 3. And for the reasons I shared, maybe his rushing yard totals and touchdowns were a little bit down. But I think if you're building a franchise and building a team, there's only 2 other running backs that I would take above him. Because if I'm building a team and if I'm picking Zeke, I'm going to use him properly, unlike the Cowboys did last season.
Yeah.
All right. So my number 4 is Derrick Henry. I have him at number 4 mainly because of pure production standpoint. Is the league leader in rushing yards last season, obviously pretty impressive. But he also carried the Titans to a deep playoff run. Now, the reason I have him in my top 3 is because his value can go down a little bit when his team is losing, because if you think about it, they're down by 14 or double digits to the Chiefs late in the fourth quarter, late in the third quarter. You can't come back with just methodically running the ball all 3 downs. Derrick Henry 6 yards.
That team built around Derrick Henry is not a team that come back sort of like the Chiefs are.
Exactly. Oh yeah, no, Mahomes can come back. I mean, he came back in every single playoff game they played. and they ended up winning all those games by double digits. Anyways, moving on. But Derrick Henry is still great when he's on the field, dominated against one of the best defenses in the NFL against the Ravens in the divisional round. Moving on, though, at number 5, it's pretty close between two guys, Dalvin Cook and Nick Chubb, but I'm going to go with Nick Chubb. In my opinion, he's the strength of that Browns offense. He's the best part of that Browns offense, even though apparently Freddie Kitchens thought it was Baker Mayfield, but he's wrong.
Yeah.
It's Nick Chubb. He's second in yards in his second season. That's very impressive. And I think if you focus the offense more around him, the Browns, they're going to improve from the disappointing season they had last season. So hopefully they can just give the ball to Nick Chubb, rely on him out of the backfield.
So,
what are your thoughts?
I have the exact same top 5 as you, but I have different reasons why I rank them. So for me, Christian McCaffrey over Saquon Barkley, he's just proved like his durability. Saquon Barkley kind of rushed back from injury. And I know that's not all his fault. He had a terrible offensive line, but you could say the same thing about Christian McCaffrey down there in Carolina. And both of them have elite production. So yeah, it's still 1A and 1B, but I'm going to go McCaffrey because he's proven he can be more durable.
I agree.
And then for 3, I have Ezekiel Elliott as well. I feel he's more of like a versatile back than Derrick Henry. He's been more durable than both Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. And he's just consistent. He'll consistently get you production. There's no excuses in a sense for Ezekiel Elliott. And even with inferior offensive line than he's had in past seasons, he's still producing at a high level. People always thought, well, he's just a product of the offensive line. Well, no, last year we saw that he really wasn't, despite not having a training camp.
Right.
And for Derrick Henry, that he's not the most versatile guy. And Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, they're all in the same tier of running backs to me. But Derrick Henry, what he's been able to do, he's just constantly productive. He just pounds through the defense. They have to put a 7-8 box against him because he's so dominant of a force going through the middle of the defense. And 5, I have Nick Chubb, and only for this reason, he's able to stay more healthy than Dalvin Cook. I believe Dalvin Cook is more talented than Nick Chubb, and when healthy, he's probably more productive back. But availability is the best ability in a sense. And Nick Chubb has proven he can be constantly available. Well, Dalvin Cook has always been injured.
Yeah. All right. So nice. We got the same top 5. Addressing the one last point about the GM, I think it also shows that you can't just trust everything that these scouts and coaches do, that they're like 100% honest in their evaluations, especially coming out of the draft. But also, I mean, just because they're in those jobs doesn't mean that they're the undisputed experts on those topics. And that you should, I mean, this clearly proves that like, there's a lot of bias.
You can watch TV, you can see all these scouts talking, like all these like draft experts in a sense talking. Their job is to hype up these prospects. Like several people say Chase Young is already going to be better than the Bosa brothers since day one. I'm like, how do you know that? But your job, they get paid to basically hype up these guys. So we don't not actually know without actually seeing for our own eyes.
Yeah, the more they hype them up, the more the fans are gonna watch, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, this guy, Chase Young's legit. I'm gonna watch Redskins games this year, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably the only reason I'm gonna watch the Washington Redskins.
I'm not gonna watch the Washington Redskins at all.
Yeah.
Chase Young.
Dwayne Haskins.
Even though I live in the Washington, D.C. area and I can easily watch Redskins games, I still don't. Like, every time I turn on the Redskins, no, skip the channel. All right, moving on. Do you want to move on to the next topic? All right, so second topic of the day is going to be a baseball topip. So we're MLB is starting back up game schedule. So we're going to go over our division predictions and then World Series predictions. Also, I will share a wild card as well.
All right. So you want to go first, or?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. So AL East, I think it's pretty obvious, you know, as good as the Rays are. I do have them as my wild card, but Yankees, arguably the number 1 team in baseball, them and the Dodgers. We'll get to that later, though. I mean, you're talking about a team that almost made a World Series run without an ace pitcher, a top line pitcher, and now they add Garrett Cole. That's just, they're going to be unstoppable in the American League. Stacked up, best bullpen in the league, and now Garrett Cole, arguably the best pitcher in the league.
Yeah, exactly. To a $300 million deal, they have them locked in for multiple years to come.
Yeah. All right. AL Central, I have the Minnesota Twins. I mean, they add Josh Donaldson, a power bat, to an already power stacked lineup. They're going to hit a ton of home runs. They have a pretty weak schedule. The Central teams, the way the schedule is broken up in baseball this year, the Central teams have the easiest schedules because they have naturally the weaker divisions. I think Shane Bieber is going to have a Cy Young kind of season. I don't think he's going to win, but I think he's going to be in the conversation for a Cy Young. Moving on to the AL West, I have the Astros. They're still the Astros.
They're still good despite their cheating.
Right. Yeah. They still have two ace pitchers.
Yeah.
Justin Verlander and Zach Greinke. And those guys didn't cheat.
And they're getting Lance McCullers Jr. back.
Right. Dusty Baker is a really good manager, maybe not necessarily in the playoffs. We know he's had some failures there, but in the regular season, he is an excellent manager, one of the best in the league. He's proven that when he's managing a team. And they still have Jose Altuve. Alex Bregman is still an MVP kind of player. They're still elite. So then I already shared one of my wildcard picks is going to be the Tampa Bay Rays. Their pitching staff is insane.
The Tampa Bay Rays are arguably the second best team in the AL, but they're also the second best team in the division.
They're top 5, I think, in roster and just like a pure talent from a roster perspective. You'd argue
every year, when it was between the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Rays, when it was between the Yankees, Red Sox, and Rays, every year I felt bad for the Rays because in any other division they would make the playoffs and probably as a winner. But they missed the wild card being in the AL East. Right.
Yeah. They're not. I don't think they're gonna have to worry about this. They're gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then I think my second wild card team is gonna be the Athletics. They were the wild card last year. I think they're gonna get it this year. I mean, they have just some emerging stars. Marcus Semien and Matt Chapman are really big time. They're in the 20 to 30 range, 35 in terms of ranking all the MLB players. That's really solid. Their overall roster is just they're good enough to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what about you?
So for the AL East, I have the Yankees just like you do, and I would love to pick the Rays, but the Yankees just have too much firepower, like you said, with Stanton, Judge, Sanchez, DJ LeMahieu. They have so much on their team, and the one major flaw of their team was their pitching, and they got Garrett Cole, who's arguably the best pitcher in baseball.
They turned a flaw into a strength.
Yeah, and I know they lost Luis Severino, but Garrett Cole can offset.
Sure. Yep. I agree.
And moving on to the AL West, this is where our difference comes in. I have the Oakland Athletics actually winning that division, and it's like you said, they have the up-and-coming star power with Matt Chapman, Marcus Semien, Chris Davis. They could just absolutely hit. And although their pitching is kind of middle tier, I believe their offense can just carry them through stretches of the season.
Yeah, for sure.
And
what about
for the Central Division, we both have the Minnesota Twins. I have the Minnesota Twins as well. They really the same team. Donaldson, who had about 30 home runs last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's just a power hitter inserted into the heart of their lineup.
Yeah, bringer of rain.
Byron Buxton, all the core pieces are coming back. Yeah, and all the core pieces, the best part of this is they're all in their 20s. They're all young. So they're going to be fresh throughout the 60-game season because it's going to be like in 70 days. That's going to be a quick 60 games. And all those guys are going to be fresh. Meanwhile, with teams like the Astros, you have to worry about like the age of Verlander, pitch count, all of that.
Yeah.
And for my two wildcard teams, I already mentioned one, which is the Tampa Bay Rays, and then I have the Houston Astros as well.
Okay, cool.
A sleeper team to me, though, is the Los Angeles Angels because they did hire Joe Madden. They got Anthony Rendon.
Yep.
So they're a team to look out for.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, that's arguably 2 top 5 players in the entire sport. And in a 60-game schedule, those guys can carry you. They get hot. They really can carry.
And the World Series experience of Joe Madden.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and Joe Madden.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the National League, I'll share my predictions. In the National League East, I have the Atlanta Braves. I think Acuna is poised for an MVP kind of year. I think he's going to be in that conversation. He was last year. I believe he was top 5 last year. I think he's going to be top 5 again. Arguably top 3, top 2. He could be a candidate to even win the dang thing. And their lineup is stacked. You got Ozzie Albies. You got Freddie Freeman at first base. Hopefully he recovers from the coronavirus in time for the season. But assuming he does, he's still going to be there and he's going to be reliable. I think their pitching is good. Their pitching is good enough. They don't have elite pitching, but it's their
line.
They
have Foltynewicz and Soroka, so I think they're set with those top 2. Yeah. Other than that, their bullpen's fine.
Yeah. They don't really have any glaring weaknesses. They are in the National League East, though. I think it's the best division in the entire league, in my opinion. But we'll move on to the National League Central. I have the Cincinnati Reds. A little bit of maybe of a surprise pick there. But I think
to do my Cardinals like that.
Oh, the Cardinals. Okay. I think they have a reliable staff. You got Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray. They're definitely good enough to get the job done when it comes to the pitching department. You add Mike Moustakas, a guy who's a power bat, to their lineup, and I think they just have the pieces to put together. I think the pieces all mesh together correctly for them in this 60-game format. Yeah. I think they're going to win the division. Also, they also have the easiest schedule in the entire league.
They do.
They have the easiest schedule. I think they're going to take
Well, you did mention the Central teams having the easiest schedule, but
the Reds.
That's a shocker. Yeah.
Have the actually easiest. All right, moving on to the West. All that needs to be said is the Dodgers, and then move on.
They're running away with that.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm gonna go with a dark horse to win the National League East. It's not the Braves. It's not the Nationals. It's the New York Mets.
Oh boy. Okay.
And the reason why is they have all their returning pieces coming back healthy, because last year they couldn't a wild card team, but they had several no injured. Cespedes is coming sure he's going to be the same, but 50% of Cespedes can be a reliable option in your offense. They have Pete Alonso, the reigning rookie of the year. Their bullpen got even better. Yuri Familia, Zach Britton. So I just think overall they're a very well-constructed team. And in a 60-game format, we felt like the Nationals, if we had the 60-game format last year, they wouldn't have even made the postseason.
That's true.
They ended up winning the World Series. So in a 60-game format, I think anything can happen. I'm going with the dark horse in the New York Mets.
Okay, New York Mets.
For the National League Central, this is kind of going to be a homer pick. I'm going to go with my St. Louis Cardinals. I just think, like you said about the Reds, they're a very well-constructed lineup. They have young pieces coming up. Dylan Carlson might be called up. They have Jack Flaherty, the ace of that rotation, coming back. He might be a Cy Young winner. They have Adam Wainwright. Carlos Martinez is coming off a disappointing year, but when he's on, he's reliable. And then with the NL West, it's just the Dodgers are running away, like we both said.
Dodgers next. All right, so wild card.
Wild card teams. Yeah.
All right, so my 2 wild card teams are, number 1, I have the Nationals, and number 2, I have the Mets as well. So I have the Mets making the playoffs. I give them the edge over. I'll talk about the Mets first. I give them the edge over like teams like the Diamondbacks or the Cubs or the Cardinals in the wild card race, just because I think the shorter season really helps them, because you look at their past and
exactly.
A lot of the times they'll break down because
injuries.
They're not healthy. Exactly. They're like Matt Harvey. They're always getting injured every year. And I don't think it's going to be as much of a concern. The DH, the addition of a DH, full-time DH, the National League is going to have a lot of options. If they want to go Cespedes, whoever they go with.
And the offense this year, I think, is better than, or not better, but necessarily on the same level as the offense as their 2015 season, the year they went to the World Series.
Yeah.
And I forgot, how dare I disrespect, I forgot to mention Marcus Stroman in the starting rotation.
Yeah, exactly. And they have ace pitching. Jacob deGrom, I have to. He's the best pitcher in the league, back-to-back Cy Young award, in my opinion. It's neck and neck with him and Cole, but I'll give the edge to deGrom. And like you mentioned, Marcus. As a number 2 pitcher, Marcus Stroman is excellent. So they're my second wildcard team, though. I'll talk about the Nationals a little bit. In my opinion, they have the best top 3 when it comes to pitching staff. I mean, Patrick Corbin as a number 3. I mean, Patrick Corbin is a legit
number 1. He was
starter.
Very good.
Yeah, he's solid as a number 1. He's really good at number 2. As a number 3, that's insane. Max Scherzer.
And they do have Syndergaard out for the season. They have Syndergaard out.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so.
Anyways, but my other wildcard pick was the Nationals. Top 3. Their top 3 is the best in baseball. Corbin at number 3, and then Strasburg, World Series MVP. Scherzer, 3 Cy Young. I mean, it's just insane. And I also think, I mentioned Acuna in the MVP conversation. I also think the same can be said for Juan Soto. He was absolutely raking against the best pitchers in baseball last year. Hit a couple taters.
Yeah.
Garrett Cole in the World Series.
Yeah, before the start of last year, I said Juan Soto is going to surpass Bryce Harper in 2 years. He might already
in year 1.
Bryce Harper. Yeah.
He did it
exactly. Like, Bryce Harper's a big name, but in baseball and in football, you can't get carried away with big names. You have to look at production.
Right.
And Juan Soto has better production than Bryce Harper.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, baseball star players.
To me, my 2 wild.
Anyways, yeah, star players. You look at Mike Trout and the Angels. They're not the best team in baseball because they have Mike Trout. They have weaknesses in other areas, and that's why they can't get to the playoffs. Anyways, your 2 wildcard teams.
My first wildcard team is the Atlanta Braves, and my second wildcard team is the Washington Nationals. So just like you, we have the 2 NL East teams, the best division, I think, in the National League. And the reason why is the experience for the Nationals. They have the pitching rotation, like you mentioned, and most of their pieces, other than Rendon, are returning. And although they're not like the biggest names in a sense, they're clutch. They get the job done when you need them to. And for the Atlanta Braves, I think the Atlanta Braves are 1 game away from beating my Cardinals last year if it wasn't for the meltdown by Julio Teheran. But I think they're returning back with a vengeance. They did lose Josh Donaldson, but they have more experience to them. And I think all of those players are more motivated than they were last year. Last year, it was kind of like the baby Braves mentality. This year, it's going to be like the foot is going to be on the gas.
Yeah, they surprised a lot of people last year. They weren't necessarily picked to win that division, and they did. So I think that, this year they're expected to win the division. They're going to get the job done. But they're definitely a playoff team. We both have them in the playoffs. Quick World Series prediction.
So every year the Dodgers should win the World Series, but they don't because they're chokers. They're like the Houston Rockets of the MLB. Like Clayton Kershaw, he chokes. Like every year they fall short. When you want something good to happen for the Dodgers, they just added Mookie Betts. They should win the World Series, but that's extra stuff that adds to pressure. And when the pressure comes on, the Dodgers always collapse. And so I'm going to go with the New York Yankees. I just think their experience, Garrett Cole's vengeance, and with the Dodgers' playoff tendencies, I just think they're the favorites.
Right. All right. So, yeah, I have Yankees, Dodgers in the World Series as well. I think those teams better make the World Series. I mean, unless injury happens, there's really no excuse.
Yeah.
They're just so much more talented than every other team in the league. So you have the Yankees winning. I'm going to lean with the Dodgers for now. I know about Clayton Kershaw, but Walker Buehler's the man on that team now. He's the number 1 pitcher.
Walker Buehler's clutch.
He's another guy who's going to have a Cy Young kind of campaign, get a lot of wins because he's got Bellinger and Mookie Betts slapping home runs night in and night out. Mookie Betts and Bellinger, 2 top 5 players in baseball. I think you could definitely make the argument for both of them. MVP guys. They're both going to be. They're going to kind of cancel each other out, like KD and Curry.
Yeah.
When it comes to like MVP conversations, but they're both going to be
their infield
MVP
too.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to lean.
They have Corey Seager, Max Muncy in the infield. Their entire lineup.
Yeah, their entire lineup is just insane. So I'm going to lean with the Dodgers, but it might change based on how this goes.
So, like, they're the right-in pick, like, to make the World Series. But if they lose in the first round, would I be surprised? No. Like, I would not be surprised at all.
Either.
It's the Dodgers.
I wouldn't be. I mean, to be fair, they should have. They could have won.
But a key part of the Dodgers to me is it's David Price. He's opting out, so that's like losing 2.
That's true. Yeah.
David Price is supposed to offset Ryu.
Yeah.
Now he's gone, so you're losing both of them. And Ryu was like a Cy Young caliber pitcher last year. So I think that's going to be huge for them. I still think they have the talent to make the World Series, but then again, I don't trust them.
Yeah, fair points. All right.
So, any concluding thoughts?
No, man, good show. Dodgers, Yankees, no excuse not to make it, barring injury.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Zeke, not top 10.
Hey, if the Cardinals always...
The Cardinals,
The Cardinals always have, hopefully that works again.
They pull some magic. I don't know how they do it. It's honestly incredible.
Yeah. But I'm out for now, y'all. See you, Will.
All right. See ya. Good show.